Could big AAA games like Star Atlas and Illuvium build on Affinity?
Absolutely, and we expect a lot of big things to come out of our ecosystem. When we build out the metaverse and we have millions of NFT transfers going on, we really hope that Efinity will be the backbone, the infrastructure that powers all of this, makes it possible.
Okay, guys, so today or tonight or this afternoon, we got a really, really exciting guest coming on, a project that a lot of you know about, and their spinoff, which is something you may or may not know about, but it's very exciting, and I think it's about to explode. And I wanted to bring some more color to you guys out there who may be watching, things to look for. And this is all about Enjin and Affinity, metaverse, NFTs, and infrastructure that will be providing that for the future generations to come. I will bring on now Oscar. He's the CFO of Enjin and also working on Affinity. Oscar, thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, Kyle. Thanks for having me. Really excited to be here. Yeah, we are in the thick of the Polkadot parachains, so yeah, really fired up this week.
Yeah, so that's something I didn't mention in the intro is Affinity is actually going for a Polkadot parachain for the 4th slot, I believe December 2nd, right?
Yeah, batch 1.
Yeah, so I guess the first thing I'm going to ask is if you could explain to people watching kind of what is the difference between Enjin and Affinity, and let's start off with just maybe explaining for those of you watching who don't know what Enjin is, maybe you can give a quick overview of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm really proud to be with the Enjin team. We are one of the original NFT teams. Before we called it NFTs, way before we started throwing the word metaverse around, right? We launched Enjin in 2017. It's now one of the top 100 coins by market cap, and so it was the original NFT token, right? You would mint Enjin into NFTs. We coined the term minting. You would infuse NFTs with Enjin coin so that they would have a reserve value. So you could be assured that your NFT would retain some value. That even if it could never actually go to zero because it retained a certain value, and that would give people comfort to start using NFTs. And then you could melt them again, minting, melting. You could melt them to get the Enjin back if you just didn't want the NFT anymore. Although I think these days people want to keep their Enjin NFTs, the original run of Enjin NFTs from 2018, 2019. They've become real collectors items. We have a bunch of adopters who are really with us since 2018, 19, and those original NFTs. If you have them, keep them. So, a quick addition is that our CTO, Vitek Radomski, he was the guy who wrote ERC1155. That number might be familiar to you guys, right? It's the NFT standard that's used today for NFTs.
Oscar, can you tell us the 5 most important things about Affinity?
Yeah, so the main thing is Affinity is the infrastructure for the metaverse. We're building on Polkadot. We are competing for batch 1 of the parachain auctions, which are ongoing. So please support us. Go to our website and deposit your DOT. Efinity is being built out. It's doing 120 million NFT mints per block right now. And we hope to have a limited beta by the end of the year. And we just announced a $100 million metaverse fund to support our ecosystem. And we're hoping to welcome a lot more adopters into our ecosystem, use our tech stack, and really build the metaverse together with us.
We know that the metaverse is coming, and we know that there's going to be a big demand for high throughput of NFTs. Tell me what Affinity is doing to facilitate this.
Yeah, to segue, we're building Efinity, right? We're building a new blockchain on Polkadot geared for NFT transfers. If you think about it, if you were to build a blockchain, let's say specific for DeFi, to build like derivatives transactions, decentralized, the architecture would be different from, let's say, NFT transfers, right? You need something simple, fast, but you need things with very specific NFT features. For example, Efinity is going to have like support for what we call crafting. You can take a bunch of NFTs and you can have it supports formulas for combining them, mixing them up into a more complex NFT, right? So that's the kind of functionality you need. You'll have functionality for searching for NFTs, essentially putting a price even if they're not formally listed on a marketplace. Functionality right on chain for encouraging people to initiate NFT transfers. Provide some liquidity to the guy who puts out the first half of the transaction, and then it can be completed, of course, if another guy puts in the other half. we have functionality called discrete networks. One of the big blockers for NFT gaming is actually just getting your mainstream user into blockchain, like downloading a wallet, downloading your first NFTs, buying a few tokens to pay for gas, right? So we have something called discrete networks. You can put some tokens on an address on a block on our blockchain, even before the user opens his wallet. So he's incentivized to just finally take the plunge, download the wallet, because there are some tokens there waiting for him. Obviously, this is going to be some $1 million collectible NFT, but we're veering away from that idea. We can have NFTs that you can use for promotion, some initial NFTs for ordinary gaming, just changing human interaction. It can be like there can be a million of these NFTs. It's not necessarily intended to be rare and all that. But when we do the metaverse, you're going to need a blockchain that supports transfers in thousands and millions, right? So Efinity is currently doing 120 million token mints per block on internal alpha. And when we win the parachain, we hope to have limited beta out by the end of the year.
120 million, is that 120 million smart contract interactions, or how is it doing?
Like NFT mints per block. So you can imagine if we have this whole vision of a metaverse, right? Like millions of people going to these whole immersive environments. You're going to have to mint NFTs and transfer them on a scale that's very different from what we have today, right? You're going to have so much data flowing. So we're building Affinity to support all this future functionality and have that in mind.
Right now, I want to get into understanding why Polkadot, right? So, I mean, if people watching this, if they watch my channel, they know I'm a big advocate of Polkadot. But you have something like Solana, who's doing sub-second finality and super high throughput, and Polkadot has 6-second block times, right? So, why did you guys choose Polkadot, and what was tell me the thought process behind that?
Yeah, I think you've covered it like a lot, right? Like it's really just first of all, like just look on Gavin Wood, right? When our CTO reached out to Gav, I mean, he was just blown away by the vision, and really we signed up fairly quickly. Just the whole idea of like plugging into the relay chain, using the resources, the security, and then being able to customize your own parachain on top of that, and then joining this really vibrant ecosystem of all these new people building. We've already spoken to, for example, Akala, who just won the first parachain. They're interested in using our mobile wallet, for example. So all of us, you might think we're all competing for parachain slots, but really behind the scenes, we're mixing and matching, collaborating. And the goal here is not to compete. We want to be part of a very strong first cohort to really, realize Polkadot's vision, right? Like, empower. Use the metaverse. Yeah,
that makes sense. And I think one of the things to note too, one of the reasons that I'm a big advocate of Polkadot is that interoperability, right? So if someone buys, explain to those who are watching exactly what that looks like. If I mint an NFT on Affinity chain, but I want to go use it on an application that's building on Akala, what does that look like?
Yeah, good point. And I guess that's so fundamental to us. I didn't even emphasize it anymore. But really, it'll be interoperable across all these parachains. I mean, to take a step back, right? Like imagine if you download something from iOS, you can't use it on Android, right? And we're really in a future where there's room for more than one chain, right? But the thing is, if you have an NFT, right, you want to make sure that your friend can use it, your friend's friend can use it. It can be transferred from wallet to wallet, and ultimately, your normal user is just not going to worry about which chain is this really on. So we're building something called a paratoken standard. We're going to sort of reproduce something similar to what we did with ERC1155. Try to get an NFT standard in for Polkadot. We'll have interoperability across the various parachains, and then we're promoting cross-chain support. The idea is that it should all be invisible to you, like what chain these things are on. Ideally, we'll have even a wallet with cross-chain support where it can hold all your NFTs from various chains, and you just see it all in one place. You don't have to worry about it, and you can just have all your NFTs in one place and go use them.
So in a parachain, that's a layer one blockchain, right? So when you guys are thinking about the use case for Affinity, I've heard that people can essentially go mint NFTs, so it's probably going to be cheap and fast to mint an NFT. Have you thought about from the application layer of allowing other people to build their applications on top of Affinity as well, or is that something that you're not really thinking about at this point?
You know, like happy to have people build on top of it. Like I said, we have functionality that can be tapped for the beginnings of other marketplaces, right? Essentially, like on-chain functionality that lets you look for NFTs, make an offer to trade for it, even if it's not listed on an existing marketplace. It essentially turns stink bids into like a real, you can call it price discovery. There are going to be thousands of NFTs out there, and this just integrates all of them, makes it easy to try to look for them, get them, trade for them, make offers for them, across marketplaces, across chains.
Can you tell us a little bit more, because I know you touched on it earlier, but I would like to go into a little bit more detail about the upgraded functionality that you guys are building compared to, let's say what's available today on Ethereum. So let's talk about like gaming NFTs and how they might be upgradable, or why that's interesting to people.
Yeah. So like the very basic thing is cheaper, faster transactions for NFTs, right? And you have a lot of people talking about that. But we think we have a chain that's really designed for NFTs. And just think about gaming NFTs and their unique needs, right? So one good example is what we call fuel tanks. So aside from downloading the wallet, finally getting into NFT games, right? Imagine if your normal user set all that up, and then you have to worry about gas, right? Your normal user isn't even conscious of gas, and he might readily get 50-50, just gets frustrated saying, hey, why didn't I try to give a sword to my buddy and it didn't transfer, he got killed. What happened, right? He's not even aware that there's such a thing as gas. So we built something called fuel tanks, where you can set aside some Efinity for your users. You can subsidize your initial users. You can have some settings. You can just pay the gas for them at the start, or let's say if they're new, or you can set it how you like, and essentially make gas invisible to them, at least at first, right?
When you're saying that you can set gas aside or fuel for them, you're talking about the creator of whatever it is that the end user is using, right?
Exactly. So let's say you build a game or some other platform on Efinity, then you can use that function to make gas invisible for your users, ease them in. There are a few complexities to NFT gaming that your normal user has to overcome just to start playing the game, right? So this helps him get up the learning curve and keeps him engaged, keeps him playing.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I really love about the freedom of to build in Polkadot. I think I've told you this before, but we're actually building our own substrate-based chain as well. That's why I've been a huge advocate. And one of the main reasons that we're doing it is because we're building, some use cases that we really felt that if we wanted to get to the end user in a way that they're no coiners or people who don't have crypto, but we expect to onboard them and then expect them to learn how to use gas and things like this, and maybe have a 2 token where whatever application is building on our chain, you have to first have their token for access to this ecosystem. Then you'd have to have our token for gas. And that whole idea just makes things very complex for new users. Or for us, we're building a layer one because we didn't want our users to have gas at all. Nothing, just at the very least, go and be able to open your wallet, click sign transaction, but not have to have gas in it, for example, right? So it's a great reason, and one of the flexibilities that Polkadot or having your own blockchain allows you to do is things like subsidizing gas, for example. So I think that's an incredibly powerful idea, and it's going to allow Affinity and other projects who are doing similar things to branch out to mainstream much quicker, right?
Yeah. In fact, so many of our supporters, our ecosystem since 2017, we have high hopes that it could be NFTs that really takes blockchain technology to the mainstream. Really get appreciated by so many people, get adoption earlier, and really launch everything else. We have people who joined our team just because of that idea.
Can you tell us about your ecosystem? I mean, I'm curious. Enjin's huge, and you guys have worked with a lot of gaming projects, things like that. I'm wondering, do you have partnerships and things like that lined up where when we see Affinity up and running on mainnet, we can expect to see like a pretty robust ecosystem out the gate?
Yeah, no. Efinity is just intended to plug into our existing stuff. Like be the plumbing under our wallet, our marketplace. These are going to get major upgrades in the coming weeks. We even have a QR code NFT distribution system called Beam. Imagine you can have a QR code. I can paste it underneath a stadium seat. Flip it up when somebody scores a goal, and you get your NFT. Get the geofenced NFT for everyone who was there at that moment, right? Or put the QR code on Instagram, get your NFT. You can go to our website, right? There's QR code there right now, right? So that'll all be connected by Efinity. And this is really still our existing ecosystem. We have partners from Microsoft Azure. Like we did the NFTs for one of their educational applications. They're like badges of achievement. We call them badgers to indie game developers who've been with us since 2018-19. Guys who started out part-time when they were university students, or part-time doing this after hours at work as one-man studios, and now building, expanding their teams, doing this full-time. So yeah, this existing ecosystem will all carry over to Efinity.
Nice. Okay, let's get into the parachain auction, because a lot of people watching this are probably going to be wondering, should I allocate some of my DOT to this crowd loan? And I'm guessing that you guys are going to be going for a 2-year slot, yeah. So it's a two-year lockup. Can you tell us a little bit about how the parachain auction works, and what kind of rewards people are looking at for participating?
Yeah, so the parachain auctions are ongoing. There are 5 slots being offered this year. So you have to contribute Polkadot to our crowd loan module, right? We're going for slot 4, which starts on December 2. So we've set aside 10% of the total supply of Efinity to give out as rewards to the people who lend us your DOT. So after the 2 years, you get back your DOT. You can keep the Efinity and use them on the parachain. The Efinity will be unlocked linearly over the 2-year period, so you get a little more each day, and you can keep using it in the network.
Sorry, you said the Affinity will be unlocked on a linear schedule, so it starts unlocking when?
It starts unlocking when the lease begins. Then it unlocks linearly throughout the lease period.
So if I have 100 DOT, for example, and I want to give it to the crowd loan, I basically, how do I do that? Do I go to to Affinity? What's the website? And then is it live already? Or is it?
Yes, it's live. Just go to our website. You'll find the crowd loan page. Connect your Polkadot wallet, and then you can deposit it.
Okay, and is that the website is the Affinity website or the Enjin website?
Just go to the Enjin website and you'll find it right there.
Okay. And if I contribute 100 dots, meaning that I'm locking up those 100 dot for 2 years, how many Affinity tokens do I get for each dot?
It depends on how many dot we collect, right? So let's say if we get 5 million dot, and that's what we collect to win the parachain, and we've set aside 10% of our total supply, which is 200 million Efinity tokens. So it's 200 divided by 5, and that's what you get over the 2-year period per dot.
Okay. So
that's 40 EFI tokens per dot, and EFI is already out there. It's liquid, so you can trade them on exchanges. We've tried to make the supply accessible so people can use the network.
Great. Would someone like Axie Infinity or Star Atlas or something build or choose Affinity as an underlying layer 1 blockchain to build their game on top of?
Yeah, no. So absolutely. So you could use it to take advantage of the transfers, like the basic functionality, right? Like low gas, quick transfers, and then all the other built-in features that are really unique to NFTs. Right, like I said, fuel tanks, discrete accounts, support for crafting, support for NFT trading, right? And again, it's specific to NFTs. Like, you have to understand, NFTs are conceptually different from, say, cryptocurrency. Right? Cryptocurrency was intended for payment. If you follow Bitcoin, these are one-to-one transfers. NFTs are non-fungible; they're unique, so it's not one-to-one. Right? It's like many to one. You can make them more efficient by transferring them in batches because it's not actually one, for example. So you have a variety of nuances and little tweaks built into the blockchain, just intended to make it more efficient for specifically for NFTs. And then one thing we're really proud of is that Enjin was really founded by developers. The DNA is really by developers. So we have a tech stack that's really intended to be easily used, easily integrated. So we have people who've integrated our tech stack in like 48 hours. So imagine you're building a game. It's hard enough to be a game, to build a game, hard enough to be a game developer. Then it's even harder, maybe impossible, to be a small team, and then you have to be a blockchain developer on top of that, right? So what we want is for people, even the small guys, just to be able to plug in into an existing platform, put in a little effort, and then you have NFTs on your platform, and you're ready to go. Our wallet.
What about the fungible side of a game, for example? So let's say that it's Axie, right? And so now you have SLP. Like, is that something that can be facilitated on Efinity as well?
Yeah. So it can transfer anything, but as mentioned, it's really optimized for NFTs and has a few additional functions that are unique to NFTs and NFT transfers and NFT trading.
But as default, we expect transactions to be quick and cheap on even for fungible tokens on Polkadot just out of the gate, right? So it should be no problem there. Okay, so is there anything else that you wanted to add that I might have forgotten that's really important, or things that Affinity are working on?
Aside from developing Efinity itself, we actually announced a $100 million ecosystem fund, just to support the Efinity ecosystem. So it'll support. We'd make early stage token purchases, equity subscriptions to people who are building in our ecosystem. So our DNA is really in NFT gaming. We'd support people who are building other things other aspects of NFTs, collectibles, building on Polkadot, adjacent spaces, related infrastructures, like adjacent spaces include AR, VR. We're getting some inbound interest. We're reviewing quite a few decks right now, so we're hoping to welcome a lot more people into our ecosystem. It's growing quickly.
That's amazing. Is that a fund, or is it like a grants program? So is it like you guys are investing into the project in an early stage, or is it like a grants to build up the ecosystem, for example?
It's a fund. So we buy our adopters tokens, or if they want, we subscribe to their equity. It's really support the ecosystem. We have a longer term view. It's a fund.
Okay, guys. So that's going to wrap up the show today. Oscar, thanks so much for coming on. I know that, and for full disclaimer, guys, I am an investor in Affinity. I haven't sold any of my tokens. I don't intend on doing that anytime soon, and I do plan on contributing to the parachain auction as well. I just think it's an amazing opportunity. I don't plan on selling my DOT for a long time either, so obviously it makes sense for me to do that. Again, Oscar, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate your time, and I know you're busy. This is a huge deal you guys got coming up. Thank you for coming on the show.
It's a great privilege to be here and to meet your community.